The prince's chambers were deathly silent when I saw her shadow change. It was bigger than her, a dark, riding thing on the wall, curling like smoke. The figure it cast had claws and horns, but Abeni, the woman everyone thought was the prince's perfect bride, sat perfectly still, her human form glowing with beauty. Her laughter rang soft and sweet, but my stomach churned. She wasn't laughing at something the prince had said. No, she was laughing because no one could see what I saw. But let me start from the beginning, so you can understand how we got here. My name is Adaobi, and I was born in the palace, though not as royalty. My parents served the royal family before their deaths left me an orphan. The palace raised me as one of its servants. I scrubbed the floors, fetched water, and swept the courtyard. People barely noticed me. The kingdom of Umuakola was known far and wide as a land of prosperity and magic, though its magic was subtle. It didn't show itself in big ways, but if you were lucky, the land blessed you. Crops grew tall, rivers ran clean, and children grew strong. They said this magic came from our ancestors and the bond they shared with the living. My grandmother always told me stories about that magic. She claimed our family, the Ndimio, had been guardians of this magic for generations. I thought they were just stories, something to make a lonely child feel special. Everything changed the day the king declared the prince was ready to marry. The announcement went out across the kingdom and beyond. Women of all ranks and wealth came, dressed in the finest clothes and adorned with the shiniest jewelry. The palace was lively with singing, dancing, and chatter. Prince Obina met each of them, but none impressed him. "She's too proud," he said of one. "She's too vain," he said of another. Days turned into weeks, and his disinterest grew. The king was frustrated, but the prince was determined to find someone who truly captivated him. Then she arrived. Abeni was unlike any woman I'd ever seen. Her beauty was flawless, as though she had been sculpted by the gods themselves. Her skin glowed like sunlight reflecting off a river, her voice was as soothing as a cool breeze, and her smile could make even the angriest man calm. From the moment she stepped into the palace, everyone loved her. The prince fell for her instantly. He laughed at her jokes, hung on her every word, and barely noticed anyone else. Within days, he declared her his bride. The king was overjoyed, and preparations for the wedding began. But I knew something was wrong. It started with small things. Dogs barked and howled whenever Abeni passed, then fled with their tails tucked. Birds that perched in the palace windows flew away the moment she entered. And her reflection, when I cleaned the mirrors in her chambers, I noticed it didn't move quite like her. It lagged behind, as though reluctant to follow her gestures. Still, I said nothing. Who would believe a maid? Then the prince began to change. He became quieter, thinner. His once lively eyes dulled, and he spent every moment with Abeni. He barely ate, barely spoke to anyone but her. Even the king started to worry, though he blamed it on wedding nerves. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Abeni wasn't who she seemed. One night, as I lay on my mat in the servants' quarters, I remembered something my grandmother used to tell me. "Adaobi, our bloodline is special. We are keepers of light, protectors against those who dwell in darkness." She had given me a necklace before she died, a charm carved from Oji, the sacred Igbo kola-nut tree. "This will protect you from evil," she'd said. I hadn't thought much of it at the time, but that night, I wore it around my neck. The day before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. I felt something dark hanging over the palace, pressing down on me. Late in the night, I decided to check the prince's chambers. I don't know why, maybe it was instinct, maybe it was my grandmother's voice urging me forward. When I reached his door, it was ajar. That's when I saw her. Abeni sat beside the prince, her hand on his cheek, her smile wide and unnatural. Her shadow loomed on the wall, monstrous and writhing. It had horns, claws, and glowing red eyes. I gasped, and her head snapped toward me. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice no longer sweet but deep and cold, like the growl of a wild animal. I clutched my grandmother's necklace, and the charm grew warm in my hand. Abeni hissed and stood, her perfect form beginning to distort. Her skin darkened, her hair writhed like snakes, and her teeth sharpened into fangs. "You dare challenge me, little girl," she snarled. I didn't know what to do, but words spilled from my mouth, words I didn't understand but felt deep in my soul. It was an ancient prayer, a call to the ancestors. The necklace glowed brighter and brighter until the entire room was bathed in light. Abeni screamed, her monstrous form revealed fully. She lunged at me, but the light from the charm burned her skin. With a final, ear-piercing shriek, she vanished into smoke, leaving behind a foul stench. The prince collapsed, unconscious but alive. When he woke, his eyes were clear again, his smile returning as if a heavy weight had been lifted. He didn't remember what happened, but he thanked me for being brave. The king dismissed the wedding, claiming Abeni had fled in disgrace. No one spoke of her again, but I knew the truth. She wasn't human. She was a Miwo Oju, a wicked spirit sent to destroy the kingdom. I still wear my grandmother's necklace every day. I know Abeni, or whatever she truly was, is still out there, watching, waiting. But I'll be ready. Because the blood of the Nimio flows in me, and I will protect my home.